Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the Uncensored Self Podcast. And I'm really excited. I have a guest today, my friend Caarin, and Caarin is one of the amazing organizers of the Closers Cruise, which you guys have heard about endlessly here on the podcast. And Caarin runs a real estate business out of Minnesota. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I want to tell you why I asked her to be on the show, because one of the things that she is doing is training team leaders. And again, I'm going to let her tell her whole story. And I think leadership is such an identity shift, right? It's one of those things that we were all taught, hey, like learn this skill and then you can get into leadershiping and see what this looks like. And there are skills totally involved with that. And I know that, Caarin, I'm sure you cover that with your folks and you guys listening. I know that your skills are fantastic, but there's also a leadership identity that just makes a difference. It's the reason why not everybody chooses to go into it. And so I think Caarin, with her passion for leadership and for real estate, would add a lot of value to a conversation around identity. So Caarin, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So I'm Caarin Pannkuk. I am the broker owner of a team and a collective. So we'll talk about the difference there, but called the Property Geeks. And we're out of the Twin Cities, Minnesota. We cover a lot of that area and into Western Wisconsin area. The entire collective group is just shy of 50 agents. Yeah, it's really fantastic. Some of the things that I'm really passionate about are team leadership, like you talked about. And that is really where the collective sits. So the team is what people think of when they think of a traditional real estate team. The collective is really a group of individuals that they might be team leaders, they might be strong individual agents, and they might be team members in some of those teams also. But I use that platform really to help agents work on leadership. They're working on how do they want to set up a team, because teams are not a one size fits all. It just isn't that way in real estate. Lots of people have many different goals.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the case across the board. And maybe that's the draw to real estate, because you guys all know it's not just realtors who listen to the show. I'm like the weirdo who hangs out at real estate conferences that's not in real estate. I feel like I could probably hold my own in a conversation with like full of realtors. And if they didn't know I wasn't one, they probably wouldn't.
Absolutely.
But I think maybe that's my draw to real estate is there are so many options, right? Like it's such a cool model because you don't just run your business. You guys also, you invest in real estate, you do the Airbnb side of things. Like it's so robust. Aside from the Airbnb side, is there anything else like that you guys do in real estate? Do you play in commercial at all, or what's that look like for you?
Yeah, we have a commercial property because we own we own several businesses. We own a dog daycare and boarding facility as well. So we have some dabble in commercial a little bit here and there. Short-term rentals is really my passion. My husband's passion is long-term rentals. I always say short-term rentals, you need to have the air of hospitality, right? You have to be able to have that touch with people. It's truly a hospitality business. And long-term rentals is the opposite. You have to have the hammer, and I am not the one to have the hammer. So that is kind of my husband's arm of the business.
And he works in mortgage too, right?
Works in mortgage, yeah. So we are all things real estate. I always say we're like a walking HGTV show. We do all sorts of things.
Do your girls have any interest in the business? Like where are they in their interest in real estate?
Unfortunately, yes. I have a 17-year-old. Yeah, 14-year-old and 17-year-old daughters. And my 17-year-old, we're just starting to look at colleges. We're starting to talk about those next steps in life. Getting close to the end of junior year. It's time. It's time to start doing these things. And she just said to me and she's a very academic girl. She is someone with some grit. She really is. But she just said to me, well, if I want to be an entrepreneur, do I really need to go to college? And I said, yes. I'm saying exactly what my parents said to me.
Right?
I'm saying, yes, you do, honey. You do. Yeah. Well, we'll work on that. So I could see her going into some sort of real estate in the real estate realm of some type.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, I think that's what's so wild about it is there's so many opportunities in it. And it does depend on whether or not a degree is required, right? Like going into different areas and things like that. So I think that's interesting. I think it's always a 50-50 shot. I was chatting with my son last night. We were driving home from volleyball. I coach him in volleyball. Actually, this this particular thing we're doing, I'm not coaching him. He's being coached by somebody else, which is actually really good, but we do it together. And so he's never talked to me about like career or anything like that. He asks the most bizarre questions. But I was asking him the other day what he would do. Like I said, if you had to choose, like if you had to choose a profession, if you didn't have to go to school, and of course he was like, oh, I'm going to be a baseball player. And I'm like, cool. And if that doesn't work out, what are you going to do? And you know
Yes.
me, like I'm all about like, let's give life to a vision. But I'm also like, you know what, let's talk about what else. And he did tell me it was like it's running businesses, but like he wants to run like a bike business and he wants to run like those, obviously he wants to run a business around his interests. But I just thought that was really interesting. I was like, no, I think I'd probably just run a business. I'm like, okay, like, I
That's
just wanted to hear what
fantastic.
you're are you paying attention? Do you care? What do you think?
Nothing excites me more than figuring out what people geek out about,
I know.
figuring out what their passion is, and then,
Yes,
yes, build a business out of that. That's fantastic.
yes.
It's not
And I
gonna feel a day like work. I
yeah.
love that.
Well, and you don't even know this. I didn't tell you this. You kind of unlocked something in me. You and your husband just you celebrate what, 20 years, right? That was
Yeah.
your wedding anniversary and you went on this beautiful trip to Europe and you can tell us about that. But one of the things you posted, it was a picture of you and Joe and you guys were in I think a coffee shop or maybe a bar or whatever, and you both had your laptops open. And it was one of those like, when you support one another and your big dreams and your big goals, like it doesn't feel like and it just kind of unlocked a little bit because you hear that all the time, right? Like, phone
Sure.
work, you ever work in a day in your life? And like, you're up to your eyeballs and God knows what. And you're like, this noise, like, this sucks, right? But what I heard and saw in that message was like, you guys, your goals are so big that stopping to pop your laptop open and get something done or answer an email or support somebody didn't feel like an interruption. It just felt like the natural thing for the two of you to do because that's just your life.
That's just our lives. And I support him when I'm having him support, and typically he's working with my clients. He's a loan officer, right? He
Yeah.
is my loan officer. So
Right.
he's working with my clients or someone on my team or my
Mhm.
collective's clients as well. And I understand that. I know that there's people behind the transaction. And that's what I love about real estate is it's the people. It's the people behind the transaction. It's their stories. And
Yes.
so when you look at it that way and when you look at it through that lens, yes, I want you to have this conversation with those people because they're concerned. Right,
Yeah.
they don't understand, they need further education. Go ahead and do that,
Yeah.
absolutely. We just have an understanding in our business, and we're entrepreneurs together.
Yeah. Well, and I just think that's really beautiful because for me, going from corporate to entrepreneur land, I didn't get that, right? Like I lived very much on the like, it's after 5 o'clock, do not call, do not ask me any questions. Like I was big in my boundaries in my 30s, right? I was like, do not call me at 5 o'clock and and so then when I came in the entrepreneur land, I went in the opposite direction, right? Where it
Yeah,
was like always available all of the time and no boundaries and no real standards about it. And now I do think it also helps like my partner, he's really passionate about his work and
mhm,
he's very similar to you guys. He was like taking a phone call at 8 o'clock for 10 minutes to answer somebody's question so they don't have to worry about it until tomorrow morning is not work to me. Like it's just what I do. And he's like, I also don't think it's hard. So like I've been in this really interesting space, but you guys did just unlock that where you're like, no, it didn't feel like an imposition to stop on our vacation and do this thing because this is the life we built. And one of the mantras that I've been playing around with for like the past year is living makes me money. And I feel like you and Joe probably model that really beautifully. And maybe that's what I energetically felt in that. So
yeah.
I hadn't told you that story. So
That. It brought me peace in that moment. Like,
yeah,
it brought me peace to be able to look in and check in on everyone. I'm very much a mother bear. Like, I'm very much that mother hen kind of personality. I love to take care of everyone. So, in that moment, that brought me peace to make sure that just to check in on everyone, not just the kids, because I was checking on the kids at that moment too,
for sure.
but also our business.
Yeah.
So, also our kids, right? Our
Mm.
clients and our agents and everything else. And he's doing the same. And we got to finish that. We closed our laptops, we walked away, and we were like, "That felt great."
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I think that's really beautiful. So talk to me about leadership. Why team leadership? Like you said, there's 4 billion different ways to grow a real estate business and to thrive in that space. Why is your heart in leadership, team leadership in this regard?
Because I think that in our industry, there's a misconception that you
Okay.
have to do it in one way.
Mm.
You have to be this very, very and I'm gonna be just real honest here,
Yeah.
we're gonna be transparent here, right?
We do here.
It's such an ego-driven
Amen.
industry, and
Mhm.
especially when it comes to leadership,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to those leaders. It's not about us, you guys. It's not about us. It's
Oh.
about them. It's about the clients at the end of the day and
Yes.
how we are able and it's so easy to say that, right? And everyone says a little bit of fluff, but it's truly true. And
Yeah.
so how are we going to help not only support our clients, but help support our team members, help support
Mhm.
our agents, help support everyone in that transaction to eventually, the point is to help support the clients. And there's not one way to do this. There's
Sure.
just not. There's not one way to do this. There are so many different ways to slice and dice this. There's not one wrong way. So
Right.
you might have a very typical team
Right.
setup, right? You have one personality, everything is going through them. Their team name is typically their name,
Yep.
right? And everyone's like either sub agents or you might have a lot of staff, but you also have beautiful things like partnerships. You might have a mom and a daughter or mom and
Yeah.
son partnership. That's beautiful also. And that is set up in a very different way.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to slice and dice leadership and ways to set up teams. And there just was no education out there for us. When
Yeah.
we started this team back 10, 12 years ago now, when we started this, we rewind, we were looking for guidance. We were looking for mentorship and we did not find it. And so what I'm really passionate about is providing a space for that.
Yeah.
Providing a space for your way is not wrong. That's right. And
Yeah.
let's build it out around how what works for you because your personality is great too, and people need that.
Yeah. And I think that's such a beautiful testament, like I said, to my body of work, which trickles outside of real estate, which is the way that best serves you and your strengths and your gifts and your interests is the way that's going to best serve the business. But
Yes.
like you said, also best serve the clients. When you try to fit a square peg into a round hole, it will work for a little while, but at some point in time, it will all fall apart, right? And that's such a big part of
Yes.
my story was I kept trying to put a round peg in a square hole, and it didn't work. But when I did make that jump from corporate to entrepreneurship, I missed the identity piece, right? I took all of my corporate stuff, right? My rules and the way that it had to look. And I literally just recreated my corporate job. I just put myself in charge instead of somebody else, which actually at the time really wasn't a great idea. So let's yeah, that did not work out well for me. Let's talk about the identity piece though. Like, what is that past the skills, past all the different business models? When we talk about like going from being an individual producer, right? Being the person to now being a team lead, what are some of those identity shifts? What are some of those core fundamental things that aren't being discussed that you bring that makes your viewpoint different?
Yeah, I think it's again, I'm gonna go back to just a little bit
Yeah.
of the conversation on the idea that you have to be one way to be
Mm.
a leader.
Yeah.
You don't have to be that larger than life personality.
No,
You
gosh,
know,
no.
you do not have to be that typical dominant personality to be a great leader. In fact, there are so many great leaders out there that are not that way. And I am definitely not that way. Like I had mentioned before,
Yeah.
I'm a mama bear personality. I'm more of a caretaker. And
Mhm.
that's a great leadership style too. There's different leadership styles and different leadership qualities in each person. Again, there's not a one size fits all. So I really think you need to dig into what works for you and what you're trying to build,
Mhm.
and then take that out and then figure out, okay, A, B, C, D, I need to have these qualities to run this type of business. Right. There are definitely some leadership qualities that we'll see across leadership. And especially as you're taking yourself from an individual agent to a team lead, there are some things you need to keep in mind. But that doesn't always even look one size fits all
Yeah.
because it really depends on who you are at your core and
Mm.
what your goals are
Yeah.
with your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you said that about larger than life personalities because I think it's very common. And even just outside of the team leader conversation, when you look at realtors, right? When you look at entrepreneurs, even looking in the corporate world at corporate leaders, that's kind of the thing is it's the person with the larger than life personality. There used to
Mhm.
be a joke back in, I started my career selling radio advertising a million years ago, where it was like, your top producers, right? Your biggest contributors, they actually are extremely high maintenance and
Yeah.
hard to rein in. And they are typically not excellent leaders, not because they don't have the skills, but because that's not who they are, right? Somebody who is larger than life and likes to be in that place, it is challenging to go from being that into like turning around and, like you said, taking that servant leadership role. And it doesn't
Mhm.
make it wrong. And I think that's so important where people think, oh, well, I'm not gregarious or I'm not aggressive or I'm not bold or I'm not this or I'm not that. I don't have that. Therefore, leadership isn't for me. And like I said, I think that's just a bad like, it's a bad storyline that
Yeah.
the best leaders are the most gregarious or have the biggest personalities or are the most direct or the most aggressive or the most whatever, whatever. It's typically the other way around. You see
Yeah.
that?
I think a lot of times the beautiful leaders that I am seeing that are becoming so successful, that
Mm,
are doing some things a little different in real estate, are the ones who are going to take their agents by the hand and lead them through this,
sure.
right? And all you're doing is a shift there. Talking about identity, you're
Right.
just doing a shift between taking your clients by the hand and
Mhm.
helping them through the transaction to taking your agents by the hand and taking them through the steps that you need to help them build their business.
Yeah.
So it's just that really is just like that switch. It's
Yep.
just that switch for them to just you're in a slightly different role, but you're doing the same things.
Yeah. Well, and I'll ask you a direct question because I know some people who maybe are considering leadership or what that looks like for them. There's a lot of talk in the world that like being a leader is hard because nobody wants to do the work. Right.
Mhm.
Like, and honestly, I'm gonna be real
Yeah.
honest with you. The realtors that have told me before that like I have no desires for leadership, they'd be down for like a collective type model that you have. But they're like, no, I don't want anybody. No, right. Like I
Yeah.
want to do that because most people don't want to do the work and they want this and they want that. And in my experience, you typically find that to not be true. That people don't. It's not that they don't want to do the work. It's often that they don't know how, or there's something else going on there with them. How do you advise a leader in that capacity, or maybe somebody who's afraid of leadership because of that mentality of nobody wants to do the work, and yeah, you're going to have to do all this hand holding, and it's like, oh, well, if that's babysit. Like to some, I did. Somebody once told me she's like, I don't want to babysit agents.
And that is
Not
true.
myself.
I mean, it's not true, but it
Right.
doesn't have to be true.
Right.
Right?
I agree.
It's not true, but it doesn't have to be true.
Mm,
So, depending on the style of team you wanna run. So
right.
that's step 1. Step
Yeah.
1 that I always take through with these leaders or really people who are looking to be leaders is, number 1, do you wanna be a leader?
Right.
Are you sure you wanna be a leader? Are you
Right.
sure that's what you want? And then if you do, what do you want that to look like?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you wanna be leading brand new agents? Do you wanna be creating, mentorship programs?
Right.
Is that something that you wanna do because maybe that's in your heart? Maybe that's on your heart and that's actually what you want, or maybe you wanna lead more of a collective style, or maybe you just wanna have a partnership with, a business model underneath you, and that's great too. So, figuring out first
Mhm.
there's not one right way. So figuring out which way you want to go and what that business looks like for you based on what you are naturally good at. What you are naturally good at. Are you a great servant leader or are you great at something like what is your
Right.
thing? And then figuring out, okay, this is how I want to model that.
Yeah. And that dovetails so perfectly into my work because it's always like I always say it's identity first, right?
Yes.
Identity first is who are you, right? Like who is that person leading your business? How do you want to show up? How do you want to spend your time? Where's your energy best invested in a way
Mhm.
that fills your cup, right? Because anytime we try to do anything that doesn't fill our cup for a prolonged period of time doesn't end well anyway. It doesn't really matter what
Yes.
it is, right? Um,
100%.
and obviously, like you said, there's peaks and valleys in all spaces, but prolonged, hey, this doesn't fill my cup. This feels like a drain. This feels like I'm dragging somebody along with me. And one of the things that I think I don't talk a lot about this on the show, but it's a big part of it is influence, right? It's the ability to hold yourself to a standard that influences others, right? When I talk about leadership with people, it's people want to say somebody you want to grow a real estate team. They want to be on your team because something about you appeals to them. And again, if you try to be somebody you're not inside of that organization, your recruiting's going to get your wires are going to get crossed, right? You're going to wind
Yes.
up with a team full of people who don't fit if, the front of the house doesn't match the back of the house. So I'm assuming that's a big part of your conversation as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. It's
Mhm.
exactly what I talk to these leaders or people who are looking for leadership.
Yep.
And because again, we need to go back to say, okay, what are you naturally great at? What are
Yep.
your natural gifts? Where do you feel like you can really serve? And then figuring it out from there. I think it's really important to have that conversation. Absolutely. With
Yeah.
people right from the very beginning.
Go ahead.
Otherwise, you really see a lot of real estate teams fail. I mean, the failure rate of a real estate team is very, very high. And I think it's because people are trying to do things that are not natural to
Right.
them. And then like attracts like. I
Okay.
talk about this a lot. I talk about the law of attraction a lot with these agents that truly like attracts like. And so if you're trying to be something and you're trying to mirror something, it won't work and it
Yeah.
will end up exploding.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out who you are naturally
Yes.
and then you figure out the path that you wanna take.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on when you should start thinking about leadership? right? Like, because again, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of realtors, and I feel like I recently had, she's actually someone I met in your world, one of the gals I met on the cruise, that she's brand new in business. And she's like, no, like, I want a giant. Like, that's what I'm doing. Like, her vision is very clear from the first property she sold, from the day she decided that that's what she wanted to do. She has a vision, right? And then
Yes.
I work with other realtors who are like, I never imagined I would have the business I have to be able to even think about a team, right? So it's a new thought after years and years in business, right? Versus somebody who comes into the business with the intention of building a team. You see, how do you advise that? Like, because, and the reason I'm asking this question is it's one thing to have leadership tendencies, but also to be able to lead in a space where you feel confident. So, how do you advise somebody who's brand new to the business, who's like, I see this as my vision, but they don't have the necessarily maybe the real estate prowess yet for that to make sense for them? How do you advise that?
If it's their vision and it's their passion, I want them to go for
Of
it.
course.
I mean, and do it from the very beginning, right? Do
Really?
attention from the very beginning. Start from the very beginning with this in mind because you already know. If you know,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you know, you know if you're an entrepreneur. You know.
Yeah.
You just it's in your core, it's in your being, it's who you naturally are. Going back to that again, but it is
Yeah.
who you naturally are. And if you know that from the very beginning, that would get me excited to coach that person, right? Because they know that that's what their vision and they know that that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And then there's other agents who come to me and say, I'm just really busy. And so I think I should start a team. Are you sure?
Right. Yes.
Are,
Yes.
are you sure you want to do that? Because there is, depending on the way that you structure that team, it may give you more work to
Yeah.
do, depending on who you add to your team. Now, again, if you take yourself and you are just really busy, maybe you want to consider building out a business versus
Right.
a team, a structure of an organization of staff. That's a
Yeah.
different looking team.
Yeah.
And that would help you. That's going to help serve you. But if you bring on a bunch of buyers agents and new agents, that's not building it the correct way. That's why we have the Team Leader Academy. That's why we have that. That's why we do this coaching is
Yeah.
because this is exactly it. You need to figure out what that looks like for you and then build it around it. But don't make the mistake of just saying, "Oh yeah, I'm really busy. Yep, you want to join my team? Go ahead. If you want to join my team, I'd love to have you because it's going to give you extra to do."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're so right where you said, like, hey, when we started our career, we were looking for advisement in that way and we couldn't see it. I see it across the board in real estate. I work with, the high achievers in the space, right? I work with the folks who are winning in their business. And it does feel like there's a big gap, right? Like there's a lot of resources. But I found this in entrepreneur land. If you are 0 to 100K, 150K in your business, there is no shortage of coaches and masterminds and books and podcasts and spaces, right? To learn. But like there seems to be this no man's land, right? Between beginner esque and then yeah, growing, having a collective and a business that is as big and sound and deep and mature as yours, that there's this giant gap somewhere in between, and there's no real like there's no real leader in that space yet.
No, there's not. There's really not. There's not a leader in that space at all. Really helping people build out the business
Yeah,
side.
exactly.
It's just building out that business of how do I do this? How do I structure this?
Mhm.
Yeah. Because they don't know. They know that they want to build something.
Yeah.
They know that they need to do this or they feel led to do this or they feel passionate about this. But how do I get there? How do I go
Yeah.
from A to Z?
Yeah. Yeah, there's just not, it's just interesting. I've had this conversation probably 5 or 6 times in the last couple weeks with people who are like, "Yeah, I was in this program, I did this thing, I went to this thing, and I'm always the most successful person in the room," or I'm always
Mhm.
the person who has, the highest number of transactions or the highest volume or the biggest team, right? Like, and I'm always the one who winds up pouring into other people. So I think it's really beautiful that you are creating this space, but even more so than just high achievers or high performers, it's very specifically those that want to grow businesses inside of real estate. And I actually this year or just this fall just wrapped up doing business therapy live with actually a small like indie, they call them indie brokerage, right? Just a small little intimate brokerage here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
We did a whole business therapy with them because their whole model is the idea of their business owners, right? They don't, from day one, when you are a member of that broker, you're not a salesperson, you're not a realtor, you're not just, whatever, you run a business. And
Yes.
they train them that way from go. And again, business model they chose. If you want real estate to be your business, if you want to think of this as you're not just a 1099 salesperson, right? You have an LLC, you're growing out a team, you're doing these things, you have a P&L, right? You set budgets and projections and business planning, which is very different than being a salesperson. And so now I'm kind of seeing more that's probably just one version of a business model that's available.
It's beautiful. I love that. Absolutely, and I think going back to, like, taking yourself from a real estate salesperson to a team lead, you are
Yeah.
growing a business. I mean, that
Yeah,
really sums it up right there.
absolutely.
You're taking yourself off of a salesperson role, and you're growing a business, and
Right.
you're helping other people do the same.
Yeah. Right. So it's
Absolutely.
more than just leadership, right? At this point in the game, you step into a CEO role, right, of your own business
Yes.
because your business, that's again a lot of fear that I hear people have is if I grow my own business, well, or even if I grow a team, will my own business suffer, right? My own production suffer in any capacity. So there's that, right? Um, and just a lot of different those questions that come up for people around, it's CEO and then it's marketing and marketing materials for those people. And like you said, it becomes training and development. It becomes all of those different, resources that people need when they grow a business, and it's just a completely different perspective than here's how we sell more houses or increase transaction value or whatever, just recruit agents for the sake of recruiting agents versus building something really intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that space is getting a little louder out there right now, which I love to see. I'm hearing a little bit of that on social media talking about people being really honest
Yeah.
about, wait a minute, this is actually not helping me succeed because I didn't build the business and I didn't build the team right from the very beginning. I'm not able to time wise, I'm not able to invest into my own clients anymore, or I've gone non-transactional, which is fine. That's a choice. Absolutely. And I've gone back and forth, honestly. I've gone back and forth between being transactional and being non transactional. And again, there's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody has their own flavor too, because I've seen
Yes.
that too, where people they're afraid of, well, yeah, if I have a team, people want me. That's everybody's favorite thing. They just want me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do, and, they will trust your recommendation too in that regards,
Absolutely.
right? Like, there's a lot of people that
Yes.
are like, "Oh, well, I can't get out of production because they want me," right? Or the referrals come to me. If another agent refers me somebody, they expect me to do the business, and I think that's a bit of an overstatement. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, I agree with you. They need to reframe really their mindset.
Yeah,
That's a mindset issue right
I
there.
agree.
I mean, they really need to reframe that. They
Yeah,
need to build out systems.
yep,
They need to build out their business so it can be done.
yeah,
Because I they feel like they always want them,
yeah,
sure,
right.
but it's not true.
Right. And more than
Yes,
anything, it's your own story of I'm the one who can do it best. I'm like this is mine.
sure.
This is my responsibility. It's something that you owned because and that's what I've learned about being inside real estate rooms that I did not know is that, what y'all think the general public thinks about you guys as realtors, we don't. We don't think
Yes,
any of the things that you think because we don't know it. So in the weeds, people will get with me and I'm like, I think I'm on my third house,
yep,
my third property, and I've not had any of those thoughts. Like I've not thought that. I've not worried about that. If I reached out to a friend of mine and they were like, "Rye, I love you, but so and so is going to be better for you because they're familiar with your area, or they have more time for you, or you're just a high maintenance pain in the ass, and I know you're going to expect somebody to pick up the phone, and I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to suggest you work with so and so." And I'm like, cool, because I
yeah.
trust you, right? But some people are like, no, if I tell them that it's not going to be me, and that trips people up too in their business building journey because of that expectation. I see it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you
Yeah.
100%. All agents have this like misconception of what the public thinks of them or the things that they really care about that they just don't care. They
Yeah.
don't care what flag you fly.
They
That's really important. That's what agents typically think is they think that the clients care what flag they fly. And when I say that, I mean brokerage. They don't
oh
care
gosh, no.
and that is such a misconception that is taught to us by the brokerage that you are working for, and it is just a lie. The
It is.
clients just don't care about that. That is not they want you,
Yeah.
or they want your business model, or they want your recommendation.
Right. Right.
Because they trust you.
Yeah. And I mean, and that lands the plane quite beautifully, right? Like team leadership, identity as a whole is being true to yourself,
Yes.
right? If you don't build something that is true to you, it will always feel heavy. It will always feel hard. It will always feel awkward. It will always feel. And again, I know lives and challenges happen, but like I said, in watching Caarin just over that handful of months that I've watched her in social media, like you just go with the flow. Like you have every excuse on the planet with older, like the list of things that you have that you're responsible for to just be like, I'm gonna fold and you just don't. And you just keep smiling and you just keep moving. And I mean, I'm pretty intuitive, so I can feel the energy underneath that. Some people can't, but like you are genuinely like inflappable. That's just who you are.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's so sweet.
No,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. So speaking of, do you want to give everybody a little sneak peek because the Team Leader Academy isn't live. It's coming out this summer.
Not.
So do you want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your heart and the vision you're taking it? And then anyone who wants to and guys, even if you're not in real estate, I really feel like you should go follow Caarin because like I said, just the way she shows up in her career and her business as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, is really beautiful. So if you ever just struggle with like, how do I show all the facets of my life? It's something you do well, but run us down. Tell us all the cool things you're working on.
Oh, I'm so excited. So I'm really excited to launch it. And I don't even have a launch date yet, but it's going to be the
Ooh,
mid this summer. So it's
okay,
going to
cool.
be this summer. So I'll be definitely following Team Leader Academy. And so what the Team Leader Academy is going to be focusing on is really helping people figure that journey out.
Mm,
Right? Because I can watch I can get a snippet here and a snippet there, but no one takes you from A to Z.
right. Yeah.
And I always say I'm a B plus student that likes to hang out with A plus students.
Amen.
Like I like to hang out with the honors crowd. So I love the A to Z. I love the details, but I am not someone when I came into this, I was looking for mentorship in the steps to get exactly from A to Z. And so that's what I've created. I've taken all of our years of, creating a team and really walking people through what that journey looks like for them, depending on the style team they're wanting, and really setting that up from A to Z so that they can move forward and they're not tripping over themselves trying to create something and going, oh, shoot, I should have created contracts.
Right.
Darn it. Now I have a team member that's not under contract. What am I going to do? They want to leave or they want to come or it's all of those little things it's all of those little things from A to Z, just really setting it up, diving into the weeds,
Yeah.
and making sure that they are set up for a business.
And I think to me, what I heard you say in that is, like you said, diving into the weeds is the details. It feels like from again, outsider in, and you can tell me right or wrong, the brokerage, whomever, whatever brokerage, like you said, whatever flag you fly,
Yeah.
is going to give you I call it the scaffolding, right? And I'm a scaffolding girl. Like your
Yeah.
program, God bless you. I could never. I don't want to know A to Z. I have zero interest in A to Z. It not for me. Thank you. I love you, but I love people like you. I'm a scaffolding girl, right?
Mm.
Like if you can give me A and then you can give me E and then you can maybe give me like an M and an N and then
Sure.
like you, I'd be all right, and I'll find somebody else to help me fill in the gaps. That's the way I move through the world. Is it always easy? No, but I know my strength.
Yes, exactly.
I
But
know myself
you.
well.
Yes.
I do. I know myself well. But I mean, I think that A to Z, the kind of that to do is really, really powerful and important. But it feels like at the brokerage level, it's more the general, right? It's the scaffolding. And it sounds like if the scaffolding has gotten you far enough, but not so far that, like you said, you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed or, oh shit, I forgot to do this or I didn't have this in
Yes.
place. That's really the gap you look to fill in the market is the very concrete foundation that supports that scaffolding that maybe your brokerage or whoever else might be support providing for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's setting up a business. It's all the things, like you said, that you might get, and that's all of us team leaders when we came into this, and there isn't a program out there. So, we might have the A and the M and the N, and that's
Mhm.
how we all started. But then we kind of like failed forward until we created something that really is much, much more comprehensive and going in and just giving people a checklist. Here are some of the things that you need to do, right? Or your staff. Because if you are not the checklist person, if you're not, then that's great. We talk about hiring.
Yep.
That's a big, big topic that we talk about when we're in the kind of in those weeds is
Yep.
hiring. What's your personality? Looking at that, looking at what you need to hire for that you're it's all about being self-aware,
Yeah.
right? What are you great at and what are you not so great at? And we need to hire for those gaps.
Man,
And so that might be giving the checklist to someone who's great at a checklist. And
that's
typically for our leaders, that's probably going to be true.
that's my
Yes,
like
exactly.
because again, I can connect the dots from A to Z with 6 letters. I understand that most people can't, right? Like, and that's the superpower God gave me. I like it, but I do understand those gaps. So, where can people follow you, learn more about this, get more information? Like you said, so this will probably come out in April. So, you guys are listening to this in April. We probably got a couple months to the Academy launches. But in the
Yep.
meantime, where can everyone spend more time with Caarin?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. At just follow me, Caarin Pannkuk on Instagram or on Facebook too. I am a big Facebook person as well. I know it's not as trendy, but
No.
I have a great following on Facebook. I have a lot of yeah, I love it. I just love that storytelling. Like I
Yeah.
love that. I love long captions and
Yep.
long conversations. So Facebook,
I'm
you'll
the
find me
same
there.
way. I've never been an Instagram girl. I've never been an Instagram girl in a way that like I share content on Instagram because why wouldn't I? Right. Especially when
Yes.
Facebook and Instagram became one. But like, where do I spend time? Where do I engage? Where do I connect with people? I always go to Facebook first. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that just dates me age wise or it's just what flows, but I'm the same way. I've always really loved Facebook and I do. I have a big audience over there, but I didn't do it on purpose. I did it because when I started my business, I had a corporate career and I would have used LinkedIn to grow, a following because that would have been more online with what I do. But I was using it for my corporate career. I was an outside sales rep. So
Yeah.
I learned Facebook and it was again early Instagram days and it just never resonated with me. And especially more that they confirmed, like that they combine when I'm like, well, I can watch stories over here. Like I'm not missing the stories of the reels if I hang out on Facebook. And yeah, it's so uncool. And I don't mind. I'm uncool in a lot of ways.
I'm uncool too. That's totally fine. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, you know, it's super fun. We'll wrap up with this. This is lighthearted. My partner Derek and I would talk about that a lot. Like, I think I grew up, and this is just my inner child shit, where I wanted to be part of the cool crowd, right? And I had the qualifications to be part of the cool crowd, but I don't look and think like the cool crowd. Like I'm not in that regard. So like I got invited to the parties, right? Like I was cool enough, but I just like I don't that doesn't align, right? Like that. And I didn't know I was doing it. It wasn't conscious, but I can look back through where yeah, I always just kind of stood in the wings of the cool kids. And if I would have raised my hand, I probably would have been invited in. I think I was like,
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. I can definitely relate to that
yeah,
100%.
to
Yep.
the party and stuff, but like, don't include me in your group text.
Yes. That
Yes.
girl.
Yes, yes, yes. That is why we connect. So, Karin, thank you for your
Yes.
time, for
Thank
sharing
you.
your heart. Guys, like I said, even if real estate's not your jam, just a beautiful representation of, the mantra living makes you money, which I talk about on the show all the time, of just showing up as you are and giving, because that is the one thing every interaction I've had with Karin, her heart is so big and you give so selflessly. And there's not very many people in the world who do that with their heart on their sleeve. So we honor you in that way.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're so welcome. Bye, guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.